midnight screams.
I met my doppelganger and she's better than me. My sister Clarissa saw her first and I thought she was fucking with me. I was at home, binge watching some show on Netflix when she walked through the front door and froze, staring at me. I glanced up at her and then back to the screen, but when she still didn't move, I looked up at her again. "What?" I asked. I looked at her face, which had this look on it, like if someone has set the world's hardest math problem down in front of a 6-year-old. "How did you get here so fast?" she asked, finally walking towards the couch. I paused the show. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "I just saw you walking down the street." I narrowed my eyebrows in confusion and adjusted the pillow that I was laying on. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I haven't left the house today," I replied. Clarissa stared at me, but then she just shook her head and left the room, and I went back to my show. She didn't bring it up again, so I didn't think about it again, and I just continued living my life. For about a month, that is. Last week, she showed up at my front door. My fucking front door. It was 8 a.m. on a Saturday, and I was already pretty pissed off about the fact that someone was banging on the windows that early on the weekend. I knew Clarissa wasn't going to wake up and answer the door, so I got up instead and pulled the door open in anger to reveal me. As in, I was standing outside. It wasn't me, but it was like staring into a mirror. Well, a mirror of what could be, actually. I was standing inside my house in the long black t-shirt that I slept in, which had random holes all over it. My hair was piled up on top of my head, and I hadn't even washed my face yet. The person that I was looking at was a version of me that was a lot more put together. The way that I look when I go out, not at 8 inches the fucking morning on the weekend. She, or me, or whatever, was wearing fitted plaid pants, a whole free white t-shirt, and heels. Her hair was the same length as mine, but it was brushed and curled, with 2 sections pinned away from her face. And she was wearing a wedding ring. "What the hell?" I finally whispered after a few minutes of shock. She smiled at me. "Hi, well, you know, I'm you. I'm Galilea." She held her hand out, but I didn't take it. I stared at her. She cleared her throat and glanced around. I don't know if this is a good idea, meeting you and stuff. You know, they say it's a bad omen or whatever to see. Well, you know, I just heard it was bad luck to see your doppelganger, I guess. But I couldn't ignore you. I mean, you're me and sorry I'm rambling. I just don't know what to say." She let out a very forced, nervous laugh. I didn't respond. "What do you want?" I asked. She took a deep breath and then scratched her nose. She was holding the car keys to a BMW in her hand. I rolled my eyes. "I just wanted to get to know you. I saw you a few months ago while you were leaving a college campus. I was really shocked because you looked just like me, or I looked just like you. I don't know. Anyway, I found out who you were, which wasn't hard. I ran into a few people who thought I was you. They kept calling me Cindy. I kept working up the courage to talk to you, but I couldn't. Until now." I sighed. I was too tired for this shit, but I felt bad telling myself to leave. I decided to let her in, and she excitedly walked into the house. I didn't worry about Clarissa waking up and seeing us. She never woke up before noon on the weekend. We sat, and we talked for about 2 hours. It only took about 45 minutes to hate her, though. She was everything I wasn't. She came from an incredibly wealthy family, grew up in New York City, studied abroad in London for 2 years, until she met her husband, Harry. They got married, and she graduated early. They had a huge fancy house about an hour from my own, big fancy cars, big fancy everything. I hated her. I hated it more when I saw how nice and considerate she was. She even offered to pay for the rest of my studies, which I declined. I wasn't going to let the more perfect, more accomplished version of me give me petty cash. Then she had her brilliant idea. I just want to get that out of the way, all right? It was her fucking idea. She wanted to have a baby, but she couldn't get pregnant. At first, I thought she wanted me to donate my eggs to her or something, but no. She wanted me to fuck her husband and then let them adopt the baby. She said she would pay me $500,000. I said yes. I know what you're thinking. But listen, that was a hell of a lot of money, and her husband was hot. So, she quickly taught me how to fake being her, and 5 days after meeting her, I fucked her husband. That was 2 days ago. I knew I should never have agreed to it. I should have known better than to form a ridiculous plan with my more successful, more accomplished doppelganger. But I did it anyway, and now here we are. It was too good. The house, the clothes, the sex. It was all too good. I couldn't help myself. After Harry fell asleep, I quietly got out of bed and made my way to the back door, where she would be waiting for me, as we planned. On my way down there, which took a while, the house is giant, I realized how stupid her plan was. What the hell was this? She was just going to get someone who looked just like her pregnant, and then take the baby? How would that even work? How could she be sure that she would get my baby? It was stupid, and so was she. So, on my way to the back door, I stopped by the kitchen and grabbed a giant sharp knife. It was so easy to surprise her. I knew she would hug me, and when she did, I just stabbed her. She gasped, and I stabbed her. Again. The mess wasn't that big. I was able to drag her body into the car, which I then drove into the woods, where I buried her with my identification after stealing hers. I took the knife and washed it in a small stream and then went back home. Harry still hasn't noticed. He loves me, and he tells me how happy he is that we're having sex again. I'm not sorry. I have a better life. I'm rich, I'm loved by my hot husband, and we have great sex. They haven't found the body yet, but I'm sure my sister has reported me missing by now. She was stupid, and that's not my fault. Her plan was stupid, and her decisions got her killed. She should have just listened to the things she had heard. Meeting your doppelganger is bad luck. I never believed in the creature until I became a police officer. When I was a child, there was an urban legend that went around my school about a monster. Nobody knew who started it, but we called it the legend of the falling smile. The story went that there was a creature in our town. Nobody can see it, but they can hear it. The sound of its jaws clicking together as it lumbers through the streets. The crunch of it chewing the teeth of its victims. It's a terrifying creature, and it's always hungry. No matter how much it gets, it will never be full. Always watching, always waiting. They say the first victim of the monster was the daughter of the town founder himself, Beatrice Holloway. Beatrice was a perfectly normal girl until around the age of 7. She began to complain of a clicking noise outside her window at night. Her family brushed it off as childhood paranoia. but she continued to suffer. Beatrice continued to complain of the noise for months, but she was always ignored. One afternoon, she went into the forest to explore when the clicking began again, louder than ever. A feeling of unease washed over her. She feel her heart beat in her chest like a bomb ready to explode. She turned back, desperate to get somewhere safe, when a sharp pain burst through her mouth. One by one, her teeth began to loosen and drop out. Beatrice started to scream as blood ran down her chin. The little girl fell to the floor, only to see a puddle of blood and teeth that had left her body just seconds ago. She felt herself losing control and tried to tell herself it was only a nightmare, but she knew it wasn't true. The teeth kept falling until all that was left was a bloody mess inside her mouth. She held her knees and sobbed in agony until she no longer felt the pain. The small girl lay dead in the forest, a mound of teeth beside her for the creature to enjoy. Her mouth was locked in a permanent scream, but there was no one there to hear it. So, if you ever find yourself alone and you hear that telltale clicking, run. That was the legend of the falling smile. It passed through playground to classroom, from the eldest to the youngest. No matter who you were, you knew of the creature. Of course, the teachers and parents tried to put a stop to it, but by the time they caught on to what was being shared, everyone already knew the stories. In the end, it became something a wives' tale that parents told children to make them behave. I heard the story first from some of the older kids at my school. It never bothered me as much as it did some of the others. Sure, when I heard a noise outside at night, my mind occasionally jumped to the creature, but I never really believed in it. I had no reason to. That was until I grew up and joined the local police force. I hadn't planned on joining the force. I kinda just fell into it after graduation. I've never really been academically gifted in any way, and I lacked motivation all throughout high school. I was too poor to afford tuition to any kind of higher education, and even if I could, the chances of me being accepted were low. So, when my uncle told me he could get me a position, I reluctantly agreed, knowing it was probably my best option and my parents were desperate to have me out of the house. My first few months after basic training were pretty boring. My fellow officers were tolerable, and the pay was steady enough for me to get my own apartment and live independently. But God, did it get boring. There was almost nothing for me to do, aside from the occasional bike theft. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I wanted more crime, but I still felt the tedium of walking my beat every day knowing it would amount to nothing. Now, I wish I could go back to that. The first body showed up around a month ago. A family found it while they were having a day at the lake. Apparently, it was their kids who saw it first, or felt it, I should say. One of them stepped on its hand and got a nasty shock. The parents pulled it out and called it in. And, as luck would have it, I was placed on the recovery team. I've never had a strong stomach. When I saw the body, I couldn't help but gag. God knows how long it had been in that lake. It was bloated and covered in black blood. The smell was atrocious. So bad that the other officers looked like they were going to throw up. Parts of its skin had rotted away, exposing the muscle underneath. But the worst part was the face. It was locked in a silent scream, the eyes full of terror and the mouth wide open. Inside the mouth lay empty gums, rotting and festering. Instantly, my mind went to the legend of the falling smile. At first, I told myself there was no way it could be true. Bodies had teeth missing all the time. There could be any number of reasons behind it that didn't involve creatures, or legends, or that damned clicking noise. But my denial was cut short when another body was found. Early one morning, citizens awoke to find a woman lying dead in the middle of the road. She had the same twisted scream as the previous body, and her mouth still leaked blood from her mutilated gums. The third was discovered in a back alley, in an advanced state of decay. The fourth in a family backyard. People started to disappear, and later be found dead. The cause of death for all was listed as blood loss. I don't think I need to tell you the other connection they shared. As of today, 27 bodies have been found toothless, scattered across the town at random. I hope to God they didn't suffer the fate of the creature. I hope to God there isn't a creature, that this is all some weird coincidence. Fuck. I would even take a deranged serial killer over the alternative. Anything but the fucking monster. It came around 3 a.m. I was getting ready for bed when it started. The faint clicking noise outside in the yard. It didn't sound human, yet somehow I couldn't quite place my finger on it. I froze, listening for it. It came again and again, louder and faster each time. It kept getting closer and closer until finally I could hear it right outside my bedroom window. Click, click, click. My heart went cold. I guess it's gonna be my turn soon. I work at a museum. There's a pedestal that's almost always empty, and its plaque says, "Do not look when occupied." I've posted here before. This job I got from the dark web asked me to watch over a rather strange exhibition. I feel I'm not alone, but the pay is well, and my first day here didn't raise enough questions for me to quit. The next days after my first contact with whatever was there went on peacefully. I mean, as peacefully as they could. You know what happens when the seed of fear is planted into someone's mind? They start to notice things and automatically shape them out as weird. Any temperature shift or any groaning of the wood nourished that seed already nailed into my brain like a parasite. My eyes would dart to random corners of the rooms, impatient and ready for something, anything to pop out of frame and scare me. I felt swallowed by the huge warehouse, unable to see exactly what was digesting me. Someone said on this forum that I should check if the exhibition was advertised online in any way. However, I didn't know what name to search up. The offer and the lady had only referred to it as a prestigious temporary exhibition and nothing more. On my 5th day, I decided to start looking up the exhibits. I was sitting at my desk, my back stiff from hours of doing nothing, and I loaded up the browse to type, "The painter exhibit do not look when occupied." I waited anxiously for the results to be generated. Some forum entry briefly mentioning that they were looking for someone with connections in the art curator world. I assumed not the usual art curating, because they had a potentially new exhibit that could cost a lot of money. Some blog about soul trapping, but I didn't really understand the connection. A few pictures with an empty pedestal that I skimmed through. I don't know why, but those were the most disturbing part. After day 8, temptation dripped down from where it was, trapped in my mind, to my heart. I looked up to the paintings. There was something I had missed before. I could feel it. I don't know how I knew, but I did. I got up and walked to my mother. The sea landscape that had shown me nothing when I first looked. I stared at it for as much as I could. Just me and the painting in the empty warehouse. The more I stared, the more I realized that The painting seemed to be moving. I know that must have been a trick of the mind, something invented by my bored brain, and yet, something really did move. It was shaking a little, a flicker of light into the darkened sky, awaiting the storm. It was there, and terribly real. I leaned in a little closer, and suddenly the flicker disappeared, but something in the painting leaned in too, as if to also have a closer look. I jumped back. I didn't understand what I had seen. It was impossible to describe. The thing jumped back too. I stared in sheer confusion until relief and embarrassment washed over me. The fucking painting had protective glass over it. I'd seen my own fucking reflection in the waves. But, as all good things, the relief ended when I remembered the flicker I'd seen. It was back now, and right next to my reflection. I could make out a woman's face behind me. It was as if my body had been physically hit. I flinched and looked back, greeted by nothing. I took a step to the side, staring at the next painting of a dense forest, titled My Father. Only, I was looking at the reflection of an elderly man next to mine. How could that be possible? The title wasn't of what was painted, but of what the glass reflected. I took half a step to the side, reading the title of the next painting in the corner of my eye. The Sleeper in the Corner. I moved in front of it and looked at the painting, concentrating on the glass. In the corner of the room, right where my desk was, I could make out the reflection of someone crouched over. "What the fuck?" I said out loud, turning my head so quick that my neck hurt. No one was there. Bullshit. No one I could see was there. With the corner of my eye, I read the next title, The Open Mouth. My blood ran cold. My heart was pounding uncontrollably in my chest, making me dizzy, either sending too much blood or not enough. I gasped and slowly stepped towards the desk in the spot where I'd seen the reflection. I didn't bump into anyone invisible. If I looked at the painting again, would it be titled differently? For fuck's sake. Right then, the entrance door opened. I almost shat myself at the sudden noise. The lady from the first day stepped in. "Hi, I just wanted to check on you, see if things are going well." Yeah. There's definitely weird stuff happening. Kind of an eccentric exhibition you got going on here. I don't own it." She walked all the way to the back, slowly, taking her time to inspect each of the exhibits. When she came back, she didn't even seem surprised to see that the stack of tickets hadn't gotten smaller. I realized I'd left the tab of the pictures of empty pedestals on my laptop, and I turned it so it wouldn't face her. "Good job. You're doing well," she muttered. "One thing, though. Sometimes it'll try to trick you." "Who?" "To look at the pedestal. Just be careful. Again, we appreciate your discretion." "Right." She left without saying goodbye. I sighed and turned the laptop back to me. I stared at the picture of the empty pedestal. It looked just like the one in the warehouse. I saw my reflection on the monitor, and then I saw another flicker of a reflection that turned into a silhouette. I watched it glide across the laptop screen right where the empty pedestal was. Then I watched it lean over. Now, the pedestal looked like it was occupied. I stared at it for a few seconds before realizing what had happened. I quickly slammed the laptop shut and looked behind me. Fuck. That didn't count, right? That didn't count. I clocked out. Earlier that day, I hoped they didn't mind. That didn't count, right? I've had a doppelganger my whole life. A bit of personal backstory. I'm Riley. I'm a Caucasian woman in my early 32nds, and I live alone in a small town in northeastern New Hampshire, near the White Mountains. It's a beautiful area to live in, especially during the late summer. You get the benefits of fall temperature and full sun at the same time, all before it becomes too cold to go out without a hoodie. I grew up in Massachusetts and moved up north in my 22nds for a bit of solitude. My mother was getting a bit intense for me, and my dad was always working. So I packed up my things and traveled upwards. But there's another reason I moved up here. I've had this problem my whole life. There's another me. I don't mean like a twin, or a delusion, or a spirit, or monster taking my shape. Just straight up, another me. The first time I saw her, or it, or whatever, I couldn't have been older than 7. I remember playing on the playground after school hours. I kicked a ball over to this line of spiky bushes. Now, being a kid, I was scared of these bushes, because they hurt a lot despite not being outright dangerous. Hey, nobody likes pain, right? So I went to grab my kickball, but something was off. I saw a second identical one right next to mine. Keep in mind it was nearly getting dark, and it was just my mother and I out here, and we were getting packed up to leave. I didn't see any other kids, or parents, or bright red kickballs. Whatever. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe some kid left theirs here. After I worked through the irrational fear I had of the thorn bush, I bent down to grab my own ball, looked up, and saw myself looking right back at me. This other Riley looked just as surprised to see me as I was her. We both made eye contact and jumped back at the same time, each one of us silent and curious, but too scared to speak. The terror I felt was unreal. There's no way this was just another neighborhood kid. We had the same eyes, same hair, same blue overalls, same white polka dot shirt, same light-up Skechers. We even shared the same mole under our left eye. My mom called my name, reminding me again that it was dark and that we had to go. Coming! We both shouted it at the same time, then looked at each other in confusion again. You know that deep panicked feeling where the only thing you can do in order to not lash out or scream is to hyperventilate and pace in place. I had my first taste of that in that moment. Before I could think on it, I shoved the doppelganger into the thorn bushes and sprinted to my mom in terror, sobbing in fear. "Oh, honey, we can come back over the weekend," she assured me. I couldn't get the words out to tell her why I was really crying. I was 7. For God's sake, what was I supposed to say? I just clung to her for dear life as she buckled me up and drove off. As we were leaving, I looked out the window. I saw myself getting out of the bushes with bloody knees and angry tears in my eyes, watching as the real me drove off with our mother. I'll admit, most of those details were fuzzy, but I'll never forget standing up and seeing my own face. I still can't look at myself in the mirror without seeing that other me out by the thorn bush in the darkening playground, staring daggers at me. Those 2 moments are clear as day in my memory, even if nothing else is. The next time I saw her was my 10th birthday. I had a massive Disney-themed party, as all little girls in the late 92nds did. I had to be Cinderella, of course. I remember stepping away to use the bathroom while my mom brought out the cake, promising to wait for me to cut it. From where I was in the bathroom, I could hear people right outside, as the porch spanned the entire side of the house beyond those walls. It was faint, but I was able to hear birthdays singing. Confused, I finished my business and rushed out as quickly as possible. I froze at the sliding glass door. There, standing at my cake, with my friends and my family, in my fucking Cinderella costume, was the fucking doppelganger. As if sensing me, we locked eyes. She stopped laughing into a bite of cake and dropped it into the dirt. My mom tenderly wiped her face clean and got her another slice, but she was barely aware of it. I forget exactly what happened next. All I remember was being so filled with rage, seeing this fake version of me being pampered by my own mother. But she didn't seem malicious. She seemed scared. She had the same look on her face that I must have when I saw her the first time, and I had the same angry, tear-faced glare she had back then. It was like we swapped places. I remember storming out and tackling the other me to the ground, screaming for her to get away from my mom. The entire party became a panic, it taking at least 3 adults, 2 friends' parents, and my mom, I think, to pull me off. But when I calmed down enough to sit still and stop attacking, I just saw my best friend, Katie, lying there, beaten to a pulp. I looked around for any sign of my other self. I didn't see any. Not even a single glass slipper footprint. By now, you might be suspecting some kind of psychotic break. My mom thought so too. Frankly, everyone I ever relayed the birthday story to did. I eventually ended up in therapy. My mom says that what really happened was that Katie was getting a slice of cake early since she had to go home, and she would say goodbye to me after I went to pee, but I suddenly attacked her. My mom thinks I saw her taking the first slice and threw a tantrum. But I know what I saw that day. Needless to say, Katie and I weren't friends after that. I lost a lot of friends, actually. The jealous stepsister became a cruel nickname for me at school, a vicious parody of the party I tried to have for myself. Eventually, I stopped trying to convince anyone about the doppelganger story. The psychiatrist and my family therapist put me on antipsychotics. They made me drowsy and hungry, but I started to think that I really had dreamed up this whole thing. Maybe this doppelganger was a recurring nightmare, and I just had a psychotic break from the trauma of it when I beat Katie into the ground. But of course, it's never that simple. The next time I saw her, I was 15. I had my first boyfriend, Anthony. Anthony was 16, short, a little chubby, and really good at math. Not that any of that matters, but it gives you an idea of his overall vibe. He was the nerdy fat kid to most people, but I liked him, and we studied a lot together. He got me into anime, and I got him into Harry Potter. It was typical teen stuff. One day at school, I approached him and said hi in that awkward, flirty way teens do. He looked pissed off. I asked him what was wrong. He scoffed and said, "I thought you were done playing around with the fat nerd." I asked him what the hell he was talking about. He pulled out his phone, an old 90 seconds flip phone, of course, and began to read aloud. "Anthony, I can't do this anymore. I'm done playing around with the fat nerd. You're a creepy loser who sits around and watches cartoons. Call me when you lose the weight and get some real hobbies." I accused him of making that all up, of course, but he shoved the phone in my face to see for myself. Sure enough, it was my contact and number on the tiny screen. He snapped it shut in my face, called me a shallow bitch, and walked away. I checked my own phone in confusion, and sure enough, I had sent those exact words to him the night before, but I didn't remember it at all. Right then, I got a text from, you guessed it, my own phone number. That's for ruining my birthday, you slut. This had to be a joke, right? But no, spoofing numbers wasn't as easy back then as it is now. Besides, if it was spoofed, my own phone wouldn't have had the records, right? I looked around in anger, fully expecting to see the other me by now. Sure as shit I did. She rounded the corner quickly at a speed walk. I chased her down into an empty hallway and into the girls' bathroom. Once inside, however, she was gone. Both stalls empty too. I pulled my antipsychotics from my clutch purse and counted them out right there on the nasty sink, just to make sure I didn't miss any. I had to be going crazy, right? Some sort of schizophrenia or personality disorder? But no, I was taking all my pills exactly as scheduled. Eventually, I started talking to my therapist about the doppelganger again. Of course, me being a hormonal teenage girl in the 90 seconds, he thought it was my period throwing off my meds, so he gave me a new pill that did just about the same amount of nothing. My entire life has been more and more of the same. Every once in a while, this other me would appear and cause chaos in my livelihood. Sometimes, I'd be the one being spotted while she was doing something normal, like at the fateful birthday party. Most of the time, it was me dealing with the fallout of something she did. And I feel like it all ties back to that day that I'm the one that went home with my mom instead of her. However, even though her actions got meaner, she never stopped being just as scared of me as I was as her. And the few times I did get her back, I wasn't exactly nice either. I'm not sure that she knows she's the fake one, or if she thinks she's real and I'm the clone, or what. I've never seen her do something demonic or supernatural. She's always just been me, down to the fear and anger. It's like we're rivals fighting over the same life. Speculations aside, let's cut to the most recent time I saw her, the start of this week. Now, I'd been living here for about 15 years now. The other me's constant antics would get me into lots of trouble, and my mom wouldn't hear a word about me not being the one doing any of it. I eventually got myself off of medication and moved my ass away from my mom just to try and start fresh somewhere. I've become a bit of a recluse, paranoid that if I were to start making friends, she'd sabotage it, or I'd see her in my place and repeat another Katie incident. I didn't want to end up in prison for assault or being blamed for slashing someone's tires or God knows what else. Last night, as I was making dinner, she came out from my bedroom. She gave me that frightened look again, which I matched. I decided I had enough. I had to see what the fuck was happening. I had to talk to her. Let me guess. I began, choking down my fear and replacing it with fury. What are you doing in my kitchen? She looked at me like a deer in headlights, obviously shaken. You can talk? Of course I can fucking talk, I replied. I just don't bother doing it anymore. You'll come along and fuck it up. Me? Fuck things up? Her voice got angry in return. I'm not the one who appeared in our fucking childhood home and beat the shit out of Katie while I was having cake. Katie wasn't even there. I was going for you. You guys sang my birthday song in front of my friends, broke up with my boyfriend. It was my birthday. Why can't you just fuck off already? I got enraged. I grabbed the boiling pot of stew from the stove and threw it in that fake bitch's face. She screamed and blistered. Again, no monster reveal, no teleporting magic. No, it was all a dream. She just blistered, like a human would. She grabbed the knife from the table and stabbed me in the arm. We rolled around on the floor, screaming bloody murder at each other. Neither of us agreed on who was the fake. We'd let our fists decide, winner take all. I blacked out. I'm typing this on my phone from the hospital. I'm showing this post to the psychiatrist tomorrow. According to the doctors, I had a break after a prolonged period of being off my medication. I poured hot food all over myself, permanently scarring my face and body, and slashed at myself with a knife. Neighbors reporting screaming, not multiple voices, just a single crazy bitch with a kitchen knife. Police arrived, and I was on the ground in critical condition. I was out for 4 days from a concussion and blood loss. Luckily, I put my mom on my do not contact list ages ago. She never let me hear the end of it. I hear the nurse coming, so I'll end this here for now. Please, if anyone can tell me what the fuck is going on, even if I'm just crazy, let me know. If any of you know any magic or hoodoo or ancient banishing rituals for this shit, please share. I'm losing my will to do this much longer, and I swear on my very soul, that nurse looks just fucking like me. Riley out. Let's hope I'm the right one.